Hello world, it's Dave. I got a movie here for you with the provocative title, I Can't Sing. And I've created this movie for the reason that I wanted to debunk this. I want to make people realize why this is a horrible thing to say of themselves and why it's absolutely untrue, and to do this, to say things like this, is sort of creating a self-fulfilling prophecy that is denying yourself of one of the most wonderful, fulfilling things that every human being on this planet should be able to enjoy if they want to. I'm not saying that we should all be singers and that we have to. I'm just saying that if the reason is that you believe that you cannot, that it's ridiculous. And I want to debunk this and give you hope through a number of different reasons. Uh, Number of different justifications, we'll say. So to begin with, I'd want to start at the beginning, of course. And the beginning, kind of perfectly, is evolution. When we consider singing and we consider music, that's often a major criticism. People say, I can't sing. It's like it doesn't perform any sort of necessary skill in the way that we've evolved. So to say like we would all have the ability to do something based on an evolutionary precedence won't work in this case, because singing has never been evolutionarily necessary. I make words on my videos, you might find out. I don't know if evolutionarily is one. We'll see. Um, but here, so how does music and singing align itself with evolution? How can it be connected? And it's really, really simple, because it's built into a system of values. The first thing that you could look at, we'll go back really, really, really far, is when you choose a mate, you choose a mate on value that can have to do with a lot of things that are always personal. It doesn't matter if you're a caveman in a cave, or somebody who is living in modern times. Personal preference matters. And so you might say for a caveman living in a cave that personal preference for the females of the time would have been pretty clear. And it would have been, the biggest, most hulking guy who seemed like they could protect their young. But beyond that, there is something still to be said during that time, that a mate would be chosen also for beyond physical presence, just interactivity. Obviously, a mate is something that you want to be intelligent. It is not as though females during that time in our early evolution ignored how intelligent someone was. So my example here is that if you were able to sing, and this is another point connected to music, is that it doesn't matter what time you're listening to music, whether it's 1,000 years ago or now, it would elicit a similar response. The vibration, what sound actually is, which is vibration, always elicits a particular response from us. And you can see this cross-culturally. We all make different kinds of music. We all sing in different ways, but it remains true that if you play a minor chord and you listen to a minor chord, it doesn't matter where you're from, you'll be able to acknowledge that that's sad, in the same way that if you have a major chord, you can acknowledge that that gives you a pleasant feeling, that you feel happy about that. An uplifting song always sounds uplifting. Artists get creative and they'll put horrible, sad lyrics behind the sound of a happy song for creative purposes. But the music itself, the emotional response that's elicited, is usually most reliant on the sound that's being made, and that is a positive one. So the point is that if an individual were able to sing in our early evolution, it would have given them another point to give them +1, we'll say, in terms of finding a mate, because it makes that person, that female at the time, feel more comfortable around you, eliciting the kind of responses that music elicits no matter what time you exist in. So if this guy comes home from the kill and both are, two guys go out, they're hunting lions, I don't know, mountain lions, and they come back with a kill. And there's all these characteristics that are being weighed by their mate: intelligence, physical strength, but also just interactivity with them. How do they feel around them? If a mate is able to sing, that adds one more +1 to their chance of being chosen. Um, Other people are going to say, mates were decided in a different way. You just grabbed her by the hair, dragged her into the other room. It's true, but there's a question of resistance. Um, I don't want to go too much further into that, but you get the point that even from the beginning of our time, that singing is inherently a part of our evolution. So that's a long time ago. You can also see not so much singing, but music as something that's very important to our evolution, and they have records of this in that any tribe music was used by tribes to demonstrate organization and for reasons of intimidation. So if you show up to attack early in the morning, which would often be a strategy back in these times, something done to intimidate the opposing force would have been. Now we're not so much cavemen, we're getting more into actual sources that we could talk about, not just based on fossils or something. But if you went back and you listened to, sorry, it was drumming, that was my point. So what these tribes would do is they would do drumming before they would attack in the morning, very loud, and the act of synchronization was something that could be very, very intimidating, and also throw whoever they were attacking into disarray, because they're just, what is this loud sound? It's confusing. So it could be used as a form of aggression. Quite literally, music could be used for attack. We see this further along in, call it, colonial era, like Napoleon's time, where people would play music and sing, again, for synchronization, but also for the morale of the troops. You're seeing a connection between singing and evolutionary necessity is something that's existed for many, many years. And so this idea that singing is not a part of any sort of survival is absolutely false. Singing is inherently a part of our survival, as is music. If you want to get up right, into Mozart's time, we're all trying to survive. And if you were, by whatever skill you could stay alive, you could say that someone who is composing good enough music would be able to survive as a result of that. They were a patron to somebody, and so that way, another evolutionary successful trait that you're using in that time to survive. Now, moving on further from this, a lot of people say, that just my brain is incapable. So somebody could say to me, what, I understand you say there's an evolutionary precedent that I would be able to sing. It's built into us on that level. I get it. But you don't understand. You see, I just physically can't do it. There's something up here that doesn't allow me to sing. I'm tone deaf. I'm absolutely tone deaf. I'm wrecked. It's amazing how many of these people will still be able to listen to and enjoy music, though, who talk to you about this. But they would say that they're not one and the same. That's okay. So what I want to talk about now is the wonders of the human brain. To detail reasons as to why I can debunk that saying that something is wrong up here doesn't make sense. So what I'm going to do is kind of tell a separate story that contains within it the idea of a topic I'm very interested in called neuroplasticity. So this, the story I'm going to tell you is a particular case study of a woman who is struggling with balance, the woman who is perpetually falling. That's the name of this story. And I'm going to cite my sources down below for this story, as well as the evolutionary stuff. This isn't just me going on. This is based on some reading that I've done. So I have something to back it up, not just my own thoughts. So this woman, her name's, can't remember, Brienne, we'll say. Brienne one day woke up and found that she was incapable of balance. She was incapable of balance, and she felt as though she were perpetually falling. And what this amounted to was that she would get out of bed and things in her vision would start to wobble. and so she couldn't keep her balance because she couldn't keep her vision oriented. And when she would hit the floor, it didn't stop there. When she would hit the floor, she perpetually felt as though she was falling, continuing to fall. And so she managed to get to her phone. She grabs her phone and she calls her doctor. And she goes in, she gets a friend to take her in to say, you know, what's happening to me? What is going on that I've lost my ability to balance properly? What's going on? And he says, you know, have you been on some medication? Has something happened to you recently that you might be recovering from? And she says, well, I had a hysterectomy recently, so she got her uterus removed. And when that happened, afterwards, she had a brief problem where she got an infection after she had the hysterectomy. And after she got the infection, like so many doctors will do, they recommended antibiotics to her. And the antibiotics that they recommended to her was gentamicin. Gentamicin. Sorry. New word for me, so I'm going to struggle. Now, as it so happens, gentamicin was a real nasty drug. It's been found out that if this drug is overprescribed, that it destroys your inner ear. And when it destroys your inner ear is made of this, to explain it, because I want this all to make sense. I don't want it to be just me passing by things. When you destroy your inner ear, it's called the vestibular system. And the vestibular system in your inner ear is made up of 3 semicircular canals. And these canals are filled with a liquid, and this liquid has hairs in it, little micro hairs. And when you move your head, your brain then senses through the movement of these hairs. So basically these hairs move in this liquid, and they send signals to your brain, particularly an area in your brain called the vestibular nuclei, that tells the brain the speed at which you're accelerating, where you're moving, and then your brain can orient yourself as a result of this. And your orientation then occurs unconsciously. So when you go this way or fall, your balance is actually dependent on a whole bunch of unconscious factors, where when you move this way, your brain is telling your shoulder to stay in balance like this, your chest to stay in balance like this, and just keeps you in balance, connected to these semicircular canals in your ears. This is also connected to a visual link as well. So you can imagine how it's not only the orientation of your body that matters, it's what you're seeing in your vision. And you think about this, if you're running along and you're following something in the horizon, the ability of your brain to auto-correct what you see in your vision as a result of this vestibular inner ear system. And so as the liquid moves around, not only does it tell your body where to go, it tells your eyes where to look. And so this woman, poor Brienne, was overprescribed this antibiotic, and it destroyed her inner ear. Poor woman, overprescription of medication. And she was told by the doctor at this point that that's it for you and your balance. You're never going to be able to balance again. I assure you this all relates to music later. You're never going to have your balance again. And that's, of course, this is very sad for her, getting that news. Now, the conventional, this moves on then to, she was desperate to figure out something. She would try any sort of method to gain back her ability to walk and orient and steady and balance herself. That's the word I'm looking for. And so she was looking into all these different alternative methods, and a lot of people just said no to her because there's been a conventional way of looking at the brain for the past however many years, and many, many, many years. In fact, it's only recently, very recently, her study is in the mid to 2000 to 2010. And all these people are saying no. The conventional understanding of the brain is that when you have a system like this, so innately, so directly connected to your balance, that when you destroy a system connected to it, that there is no other alternative, that there's nothing that you can do about it. Kind of the phrase that links to this is, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And I would suggest I call bullshit. And that's what this new study is bringing, these studies are bringing out more and more. So basically, conventional theorists say, no, you can't heal yourself. But she goes to this doctor who's researching neuroplasticity who says, you know what, I think that's all crap. I think I can suggest something to you as an alternative. So why don't you come in, and I've got a prototype thing that I've been working on that can help you out. And her condition is one shared with others. They're a subgroup, they call themselves wobblers. This has affected so many people being overprescribed this medicine. And so she goes in and she's there with a doctor who gives her a helmet. And this helmet that she puts on covers her head. Huh, that's what helmets do, I guess. And what it has is a sensor that runs into her tongue. And what this helmet essentially is an accelerometer. I'm making up words. Accelerometer? I don't know. It's a thing that can sense the direction that it's moving. Accelerometer. Anyways, I've tried. That's enough. It can sense the way in which it's moving. So it knows when the helmet's moving forward, the helmet knows it's moving forward. And the way that this helmet has been designed is that this sensor that goes into your mouth from the helmet can then indicate to you what direction you're moving depending on where the helmet has gone. And so, for example, if you move forward, this sensor on your tongue will start to give you like a small electrical sensation, just enough, so light that it's like champagne bubbles on your tongue. And it goes along the length of your tongue. So when you go forward, it signals to you that you're going forward by giving you this bubbly feeling on the front of your tongue. When you go back, when you go left, when you go right. And it's indicating to you through these different sensations on your tongue that you're going in one particular direction. And so she puts it on, and within 3 minutes of practicing with this device, one of the great first miracles of neuroplasticity occurs, and she is able to walk with this helmet on, defying all conventional belief before that when you disrupt the contact between the vestibular system and the vestibular nuclei in your brain, there's no repair for it. Through this other novel method, they found another way to communicate with that part of your brain. They needed to find another way to communicate the sensation of movement. It was not reliant, in fact, on using this one system. Your brain is more plastic. It's more malleable than that. It doesn't have to rely on being this one way and only having this one way of doing things. So that is the great miracle. She starts to balance. She starts to walk. And so this is considered a massive success. And they take it off of her and they say, that's amazing. So maybe we can design this, a little smaller for you. And then the second great miracle happened in this test. She said, "Doctor, hold on. I think I still feel it." And she got up and was able to walk around for 3 minutes unassisted. So all her brain needed was in fact a rerouting, a beginning rerouting of this alternative method to get her going by herself. So it didn't even, not only is it not limited to the fact that it relied on this one system, not only is it that you can use this other system to start the engine up again in your brain that might give you an alternative way of doing things, but it is not relying on that stimulus. It only needs you to give it that spark, and it can start up on its own. It just needs the door to be opened. It needs to be, your method needs to be shown a door, and then your brain will walk through it. Now, it started to fade after about 3 minutes. She started to fall again, but they found that the longer that they trained her with this helmet, that they were able to increase the residual time that she would be able to go unassisted. And so this continued to make it's a fairly long story. This goes on. To make a long story short, Brienne practiced with this device, continued to practice with it for over a year, and now now without any assistance from the device, has returned to normal levels of existence. She is all but cured as a result of this alternative method, given the amazingness of neuroplasticity, that her brain was able to correct itself. It only needed a new stimulus to start that. Now, you can imagine what this means for singing. If somebody says that they're unable to sing, if someone can find balance, having the system that is responsible for balance being utterly destroyed, but just through an alternative method, which starts with someone saying it's possible. It is possible to sing, even if you believe that you can't. In fact, probably the greatest thing working against you then, especially if you have nothing so severe as being misprescribed medication, is your belief. Your belief is creating your truth. And because you believe, you're creating a neural repression in a way that is stopping you from being able to sing. And so someone who even says that they're tone deaf, well, that's only a result of your current belief system and the way that you have been living. If you can stop that negative pattern, that pattern that you've developed for so long, this belief in your inability, you are well on your way to being able to do so. It's strange, don't you think, that anyone who goes to church is able to sing. I thought that was very strange, but it's not. Of course it's not. It's because they sing all the time. I can go on to make the point now that there are some cultures in the world where you to say that you couldn't sing, in their culture, it would be like saying to them that you couldn't breathe. It's so naturally done. And this brings me to the final point that I want to make, which has to do with dirty, filthy Western culture. And what Western culture has done is created a belief in our inability to sing. And they do this, I believe, as a way to prop up the current institution of the record industry, or at least the modern form thereof. It is only beautiful, beautiful people with beautiful voices who are able to sing. Now, if you go back, there are some ugly ass singers, before we got onto TV, before MTV popularized the image of who it was that was capable of singing. But you get things like MTV. As soon as we moved into this media format where you could see the singers, we started to create a culture of putting singing up on this ridiculous pedestal where we believe that, it's only people who have gone on to American Idol and who are accepted through the rigorous, yeah, I lose words on here. Just the restrictive practices of American Idol, that, being told that you can't sing, you have no ability, and it's only this beautiful person here. Not all of the American Idols being beautiful. Some of them are just genuinely on undeniable talent. But it is amazing to me how much you see American Idol being this image thing, and definitely those who win a lot of the time just being based on image, a lot less their voice, although they're still talented. Anyways, I'm going for a rant. The point here is that a culture that creates the belief that it is only the chosen few among us who are capable of singing. And it's ridiculous. We can all sing. It is not a chosen few. And it's something that if you want to go into it, you look at music therapy, you look at all these different things that I think our culture is denying itself one of its greatest tools to, as I've cited, survival, an evolutionary trait that allows us to survive and is, based on something a little more than going out and being physically strong. It actually provides us literal enjoyment. And to deny yourself of something like that is an absolute tragedy. So you can't tell me it's not evolution. It's linked directly into our evolution. You can't tell me that your brain's not good enough. Apparently somebody who's lost motor function in their inner ear because of neuroplasticity can find another way. Your brain can find another way to sing. And finally, don't believe the crap that you are fed from mainstream culture, that it is only a certain chosen divine few who are able to sing, because it's not. Anything in this world can be achieved provided you put in effort. Some of us are more naturally gifted, but it is effort and perseverance and our mentality, the way that we view what we are capable of, that will truly decide what you can do. And so I'll tell a final story for this. One last story. And that's, I believe it's the 4 minute mile. So the 4 minute mile was believed that no one could break 4 minute mile or something. Yeah, basically you couldn't run a mile in 4 minutes or something like that. And this held true for years and years, and nobody believed it could be done. Nobody believed it could be done. And then finally, one individual who started with the mindset that it can broke that time. And within a year of this individual breaking that time, over 20,000 people around the world were recorded to break the time. Many of these were young children. So, like I said at the beginning, your belief will create your truth, and do not let naysayers and a negative media try and convince you otherwise. So thank you for joining me on Deep Thoughts with Dave. And that's all I've got for now. I'll put my sources down in the links. And if you enjoyed, please subscribe. I will share more deep thoughts at some other time. And as I like to say, thanks for tripping with Dave. Until we meet again, world. Ciao for now.